What would you do if the person who promised you a whole new life walked away without even turning back? The train had barely stopped hissing when the last car slipped out of sight, carrying away the man who had sworn to marry Zadie Darnell. The Wyoming Territory morning was pale and quiet, and the small station in Rawlins felt colder than the air itself. Zadie stood frozen on the wooden platform, with her little valise clutched tight in one hand. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just watched the empty tracks like someone hit straight through the heart, but still standing. 3 hours earlier, they had stepped off the train together. He told her he needed to stretch his legs, maybe get some water. She believed him because she had spent a whole year writing letters to him. A whole year, dreaming of this moment, but he never came back. And when the whistle blew and the train pulled forward again, she saw the truth. He wasn't coming for her. He wasn't coming back at all. Down the platform, a tall cowboy leaned against a post watching her. He had seen the whole thing. The man leaving. The train leaving. The way she held herself so still, trying not to fall apart where everyone could see. His name was Theer Vance. He had come into town to sell 2 horses and catch a different train east to see his sister. But the sight of the woman in the dark blue traveling dress kept him from turning away. Something in her quiet strength pulled at him. She didn't move for 10 minutes. Maybe longer. Just stood straight with her chin up like she was trying to hold herself together by will alone. Finally, Theer pushed off the post and walked toward her, boots steady on the boards. "Ma'am," he said gently, tipping his hat. "You all right?" Zadie blinked like she hadn't heard anyone speak in hours. I am fine." "You sure? Because I saw what happened." "It didn't look fine." Her lips pressed tight. "I will manage." Theer nodded slowly and looked toward the empty tracks. "He leave you here on purpose?" She hesitated. "He said he was going into the freight office." Theer didn't say what he was thinking. He didn't have to. She already knew. "You got anyone coming for you?" he asked. "No." "You got anywhere to go?" Quote. Silence answered for her. Theer let out a low breath. "You got a name?" Zadie Darnell." "I'm Theer Vance." They stood there in the quiet wind. A dog barked somewhere near the yard. The station agent had gone inside. The town seemed to forget the girl standing alone on the platform, but Theer couldn't forget her. Finally, he spoke again, voice steady. "I'll take you home if you'll let me." Her eyes lifted fast. "What?" "I got a wagon just outside town, and a cabin about a day's ride west. It's safe, quiet. You can stay as long as you need, or just till you figure out where you're going." "I don't have anywhere I'm going," she whispered. Theer nodded once. "Then come with me." She stared at him, confused, unsure, hurting. "You don't even know me." "I know you didn't deserve to be left like that," he said in a calm, honest voice. Zadie looked down at her hands, then at the empty track again. Slowly she nodded. "All right." They walked to the wagon under the warm noon sun. The wheels creaked as Theer helped her up beside him. She sat straight, hands folded tight in her lap, and didn't say much as they left the town behind them. The road narrowed as they traveled, lined with cottonwoods that rustled above them. Theer didn't push her to talk. He just kept the team moving steady, while she looked out over the hills with tired eyes. "How far is your cabin?" she asked softly. "Not far now. Another hour." She nodded. "It's beautiful here." "Yeah," he said, "it is." When they reached the cabin, the sky had turned gold. The place was small but strong, with pine log walls, a wide porch, and a split-rail fence. Smoke rose from the chimney thanks to a neighbor who checked on it earlier. Inside, the cabin was warm and simple. One bed, a rocking chair, a small table, a shelf of books, and a clean stove in the corner. "I'll sleep in the barn," Theer said, setting her valise beside the bed. "You take the cabin." "You don't have to do that," she said quietly. "I know, but I will." She looked at him for a long moment and then nodded. "Thank you." Quote. He tipped his hat. "I'll be close if you need anything." The next morning, Theer brought in eggs and coffee. Zadie looked different, calmer. Her hair was braided, and she wore a plain dress from her bag. They ate in quiet until she finally asked, Why did you help me?" The heir took a slow sip. "Because if my sister was in trouble, I'd want someone to step in." Zeddy's eyes dropped to her plate. "I was supposed to marry him. We wrote letters for a year. He said he loved me." "He's a fool," the heir said without hesitation. Her throat tightened. "I sold everything to come here." The heir reached across the table and placed his hand over hers. "You're not alone now." She looked up at him. His eyes were steady and kind. Something warm settled in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Over the next few days, she stayed. She fed the hens, read on the porch, and sewed by the fire in the evenings. The heir didn't push her to share, but slowly she did. She told him about losing her parents, about being alone, about wanting a place to belong. One evening she looked at him and said softly, "I was so tired of being alone." "You're not alone anymore," the heir said, and she believed him. The morning sun spilled over the hills in a calm, warm glow as Zeddy stepped outside with a small tin pail. She moved softer now, steadier, like the land itself was helping her breathe again. The heir watched her from the barn doorway, hands resting on the top rail. She didn't see him yet, and he didn't call out. He just watched her take in the morning like she was learning how to live again. A week had passed since he brought her home from the station. In that time, the quiet between them had changed. It no longer felt like distance. It felt like understanding. That afternoon, the heir saddled 2 horses. "Ride with me?" he asked. "Yes," she said without hesitation. They followed a narrow trail through rolling hills until it widened into a ridge. From there, the valley stretched out like a painting. Pines swayed slow in the breeze. A river snaked far below them, glittering in the sun. Zadie stared at it all with wide, soft eyes. "I haven't felt this peaceful in years," she said. "You belong somewhere like this," the heir replied. She turned to him. "Maybe I do." He didn't reach for her hand right away, but when he did, she let him. They rode back slower than they came, the silence comfortable and warm. As days passed, they slipped into an easy rhythm. She cooked small meals, helped gather eggs, swept the porch, and read books she found on his shelf. They fixed fences, tended cattle, and always left the door open so she never felt trapped. One night they stood outside under the stars, the sky so wide it felt like it held its breath. Zadie wrapped her shawl around herself and looked up. "I never thought I would feel safe again," she whispered. "You are safe now," he said. She looked at him with steady eyes. "I know." Slowly she lifted her hand to his face. He didn't move until she did. Then he leaned down, his hand warm against her back, and kissed her. It wasn't rushed or uncertain. It felt true, like something they both needed. The next morning, life moved on gentle as a creek. They checked fences together. The air smelled of pine and dust, and the sky stretched blue across the land. When they found the north gate broken from elk pushing through, they worked side by side repairing it. Zadie held the rails steady while Veer hammered nails, her face streaked with dust, her hair coming loose. "You ever think about hiring help?" she asked. Veer leaned against the post. "Only if they can build a gate without complaining." She smiled a little. "Well, I don't complain." He laughed quietly. "That's so." By the time they finished, the sun was dropping low. Clouds gathered near the ridge. Thunder rumbled. They started back, but rain caught them halfway. Heavy drops soaked their sleeves, darkening the path. "You'll need my coat," the heir said. She shook her head. "I'm already wet." "You need it more," he said, draping it about her shoulders. They reached the cabin just as lightning cracked through the sky. Inside, they shed wet boots and hung clothes near the stove. The storm rattled the roof, but the cabin was warm. Zadie stood near the window, watching rain slide down the glass. "I never liked storms as a child," she said. "Too sudden." "Not all change is bad," the heir said gently. She turned, the lamplight soft on her face. "No, I suppose not." She joined him near the fire, reading aloud from one of his books while he listened, his eyes quiet and steady on her. When she paused, he asked, "You ever think about staying? For good, I mean." She set the book in her lap. I've thought about little else. I don't want you to feel like this is charity, he said. I didn't bring you here to fix a wrong someone else did. I know, she whispered. He leaned forward, voice low. I trust you, Zadie. More than I trusted anyone in a long time. Her breath caught, but she didn't look away. I didn't come here to hide. I came because you gave me a choice. And I chose you. He rose, walked to her, and knelt beside her chair. He took her hand in his. Then stay, not because you have nowhere else. Stay because you want this. She reached up, touching the rough line of his jaw. I want this, she whispered. I want you. He kissed her again, sure and steady. After that, life felt different, simpler, stronger. They worked together, cooked together, sat on the porch in the evenings with their shoulders touching. Zadie no longer checked the road or the horizon. She didn't wait for anyone. She had a place, a direction, and she had him. One evening, she stood beside him on the porch as the wind brushed through the grass. The sun painted everything gold. You think I'll miss the noise of the city? She asked. You might, he said honestly. She shook her head. I don't. Not anymore. He looked at her with something warm in his eyes. Then you're home. A few days later, as they walked back from the creek, she reached for his hand first. The acres stopped like the world had paused around them. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. Her fingers curled around his, steady and sure. She was no longer the woman left on the platform. She was someone building a new life, with him. By early July, the hills were warm and bright, and the days felt longer than the nights. Zadie moved through the cabin with a quiet confidence now. Her hair stayed braided, her sleeves rolled, her steps light. The curtains she sewed hung in soft folds, turning the cabin into something gentler, something that felt like hers. Veer noticed the change every day. Sometimes he watched her while she didn't see, admiring how she settled into the land like she'd always belonged to it. One morning, after coming in from fixing a fence, he found her slicing bread at the table. The sleeves of her dress were pushed past her elbows, and sunlight filtered over her through the window. You seen the north gate lately? He asked. She brushed crumbs into her palm. Not for a few days. Is it dragging? Elk broke the top rail clean through. She frowned. You want help fixing it? Quote, I'd like that. So that afternoon they rode out together. She carried a hammer and nails. He carried new rails and wire. The sun beat down hot, and dust rose behind the horses. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. When they reached the broken gate, she crouched beside the splintered wood. How long since you lost stock? She asked. Last spring. Haven't had trouble since. She nodded and stood, brushing her hands. You run this whole place mostly alone. Neighbor helps when branding comes. You ever think about hiring someone more steady? He crossed his arms. Only if they can fix a gate without complaining. She lifted the hammer. Watch me! They worked until shadows stretched long across the ground. Her face was streaked with dust, her hair coming loose beneath her hat. When they nailed the last beam in place, she stepped back with a proud smile. Sturdy, she said. Thanks to you, he replied. On the ride home, clouds gathered low. Thunder rolled. Rain hit them fast and heavy. Vicara pulled off his coat and held it out to her. You'll freeze, she said. You need it more. She took it, slipping it around her shoulders. They reached the cabin soaked through and laughing quietly as they shook water from their hair. Inside, the storm rattled the walls. The fire crackled warm. Zadie watched the rain run down the window like lines drawn in silver. They scared me as a child, she said. Storms? She nodded. They showed how fast everything can change. Veer stirred the fire. Not all change is bad. She turned. No, not all. Later, she read aloud while he listened, her voice low and steady. When she paused, he spoke softly. You ever think about a life here, a real one? She closed the book. I think about it every day. I don't want to rush you, Veer said, leaning forward, but I want you to know something. This, everything between us, it's not duty. It's not charity. It's choice. A soft breath escaped her. "I chose you the day you didn't walk away." He reached out, and she placed her hand in his. "Stay," he said gently. "Stay for good." She lifted her hand to his cheek, her eyes warm. "I'm not going anywhere." The next morning he found her outside, looking toward the parcel east of the pasture. The land was flat and green, open, waiting. "I was thinking," he said, stepping beside her, "there's still a claim open on that ground." She turned to him. "For me?" "If you want it." Quote. She stared at the open stretch of earth. "I'd like something that can't be taken." "Then it's yours." They rode into town the next day. The mercantile kept her busy gathering supplies. Muslin for windows. A hammer of her own. Blue cloth she didn't tell the injurer about yet. At the land office, she signed her name carefully. When she held the deed in her hands, something inside her settled into place. "It feels like a beginning," she whispered. Back at the mill, they shared bread and cheese on a bench by the creek. The heir's voice was quiet when he said, "Tell me something you've never told anyone." She looked at her hands, then said softly, "I used to pretend I was someone braver." Only on the walk to school. "And now?" he asked. "I don't pretend anymore." "Good," he said, watching her like she was the first sunlight after winter. That evening, she laid the deed on the table and weighed it down with stones. She didn't cry. She didn't smile big. She just rested her hands on the wood like she finally found solid ground. Then she said, "I want to build something simple, something that means something." "You won't build it alone," the heir said, taking her hand. "I don't plan to," she answered. The next week, they hauled timber from a neighbor's downed barn. They sawed and sanded and set beams. They worked side by side until their shirts clung with sweat and their hands blistered. One morning, as they raised the first post, sunlight hit her wrist, and the heir looked at her like everything in his life had finally come together. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" he asked. "Say it," she said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver ring, hammered smooth. "Zadie, I want to marry you. Not because I found you, because I want to build a life with you." She didn't shake. She didn't hesitate. She lifted her hand. "Then start it," she whispered. He slipped the ring on her finger. It caught the sun. They stood together with the beam between them, the wind brushing through the grass like a blessing. They married beneath the cottonwoods in early September. No crowd, no music, just the wind, the preacher, and his sister Miriam standing beside them. Zadie wore a simple dress and Thier's mother's brooch pinned at her collar. When the preacher spoke the final words, Thier didn't take his eyes off her. Not once. Autumn came slow. Her cabin finished by October, painted in soft blue she had picked. Leander's boots stood by her door. His coat hung from her peg. They built a life quietly. A life of real things. Hard things. Good things. Years passed. Fences needed fixing. Calves were born and lived. Wildflowers returned every spring like a promise kept. And every night, when they sat on the porch with fingers laced and eyes on the land they claimed together, it was clear. The woman who had once been left at a train station had found something better than what she came for. She found home. She found love. She found a life that never walked away.